If you all recall, it was about a year ago that we delved into the horrifying world of harmony and horror, where a sinister toy maker uses some peculiar methods to perfect his craft. And by peculiar, I mean by creating a haunting amalgamation of human body parts with his creations. Sounds like something you'd want your child to play with, doesn't it? However, last we had covered was all of Season 1, and it has been a long time coming, but Season 2 has been out for quite a bit now, and while I am not too sure if Season 2 is only these 2 entries, I have been itching to see what they are all about. For a quick refresh, Season 1 introduces us to Martin Graywinder, the infamous toy maker who partners with his brother Arthur to create the business M&A Harmony Toys. And this Martin fellow is a real piece of work. He murders his whole family. Well, murder is an interesting term, as it really seems like some of his poor victims are left alive inside the disturbing toys he creates. His son Thomas was made into this horrific puppet named Henry, which gives me Night of the Living Dummy PTSD. His daughter Macy gets turned into a singing marionette named Sophia, and he even goes so far as to take the family dog he killed and turn it into Bonzo, and ordering him to kill his infant daughter Ava, who we don't see too much of, but is represented by what looks to be a porcelain doll with a gash over her head. This whole world is truly a nightmare to be in, with this toy maker running around. However, Martin had got what was coming to him after this disturbing ice cream mascot, who inside holds Arthur, another one of Martin's victims, seems to break free from his control for a moment and attacks him, leaving him inside what appears to be a life-sized jester model, in reality only making him a much more frightening figure to look at. So how will Season 2 continue on this haunting and tragic tale? Only one way to find out. As always, if you haven't already, be sure to check out the original series created by Baddington. I'll also have linked down below the first 2 videos on 4+ covering the first and second half of Season 1. But let's put on our protective gear, don't want to be turned into toys after all, and head back into the frightening world of harmony and horror. But before I let you get too far, just wanted to give a quick thank you to the sponsor of today's video, us. If you didn't know, we have a gaming channel called 4Player, where me and some of the gang terrorize ourselves with horror games. Whether it be a solo journey through a haunting indie game,
Oh my god, this is so long. Why is it so long?
or a co-op adventure that requires all of us to combine our powers.
There's no way out of here, Jonathan!
That doesn't open?
It should be a terrifying and fun time. The channel schedule has been super wonky, but more and more should start popping up on that channel in no time. So if you want some more 4+ in the realm of horror games, check out 4Player. We'll be waiting. But anyways, now you can pass through. The Perfect Pet. We open up and are met with an intro for Vision Echo, and we are taken into a video game menu screen titled Memory Lane. We enter into a new game and find ourselves behind the wheel of a car. A figure can be seen holding 2 eerily shaped bags. Text appears flipped and upside down that flashes, "Stay away from this man." Sure enough, whoever was driving the vehicle got Grand Theft Auto'd, and now a familiar jester is now driving. This game appears to operate as such. You have a gas meter at the top that slowly depletes as you drive, and you have to hit the gas canister icons on the road to keep it filled up. Sounds easy enough. This goes on until we pick up a tape off the road, to which we then get to hear a conversation between an officer and someone named Mr. Norway, an arcade owner. Mr. Norway asks if this has anything to do with the recent curfews that have been put in place, and the warnings to keep your doors and windows locked. The officer makes mention of a new play area that has been installed, and asks to have a tour. Mr. Norway quickly rushes to tell him about all the different areas. Clearly this guy is hiding something. But the officer asks about a specific room that seems to make our arcade owner a little uncomfortable. He claims that in that room houses more mature games, and some of these games definitely sound like they would raise suspicion.
Those are some of the more mature games, sir.
Clown Slasher, Haunted Dolls, The Puppet Maker, Clowns. What's with all the scary clown games, Frank?
The officer then mentions that the clowns shown in his games look awfully familiar to the clowns that they are currently after. Last I checked, there was only one clown, Martin in jester form. Don't tell me there are now more of them running around.
This is what the clowns do, dude. This is what the clowns do.
The act is then dropped, and the officer asks straight up why the games were made, to which Mr. Norway begins to go off about how none of the parents ever believed him, about all the horrific things that happened in a specific store. I'm sure we can all guess what story he's talking about. A certain store ran by a certain crazy toy maker. It's revealed that these games were made in a way to frighten the children that played them into staying away from the M&A toy store, and he confirms that all the rumors surrounding the place are in fact true. Our game then continues on, just off collecting some more gas cans, until we quickly run out of gas, and our clown is now staring directly into our soul. We then get a horrifying skinned creature that appears and disappears rapidly as we try to avoid it, until what looks to be some kind of demon slowly peeks his head into the vehicle, and we are met with this insane segment. If I had to guess, this was likely a representation of the moment Martin ran over the family dog, to which he created Bonzo the Stitch Buddy, just like he told Arthur about in the Season 1 tape, Goodbye Arthur. And the demon appearing in the vehicle is not really a surprise, as we know that Martin likely made some sort of deal with the devil in order to create his quote-unquote amazing toys. Our next segment then takes us to an ad for Harmony Toys, specifically for a toy known as Fuzzy Buddy, which seems like an upgraded variation of our Stitch Buddy. We quickly end up cutting to footage of what this nightmare looks like inside your home, and based on the way it begins to act, I have a feeling it is seeing something we aren't.
Hello. You're scary. No. You're too loud.
Perhaps it isn't seeing something, but it's in fact repeating what it's been told before in its life when Bonzo was a real dog. However, the dog inevitably takes its attention to us, and well, it doesn't go so well.
Why so sad? All doggies go to heaven.
We then return to our advertisement, and we hear the haunting news that the toy can actually eat, and we end up cutting to this horrifying scene of the dog with blood in its mouth, and child cries can be heard in the back.
Nom. That's tasty.
Is this what happened to poor Ava when Bonzo was sent to do Martin's dirty work? The commercial then tells us he loves to dance, and we cut to this scene in a hallway as we can hear Fuzzy Buddy off in the darkness, slowly making its way closer to us, until he is in full sight. Just look at him go. It appears that he ends up shutting down, and our cameraman gets closer, which was mistake number 1. Once back to the commercial, we hear about how this toy is capable of keeping watch all throughout the night. Yeah, that definitely sounds like something I'd want. Our scene then cuts out, and we see through the eyes of likely a child, watching as their Fuzzy Buddy watches the TV, and whatever is on the TV does not seem normal. We see frames of Bonzo in his much larger form, but then we see Ava with the crack in her head, before the Fuzzy Buddy then turns to look at us. The eyes turn red, and it seems like it's all over for whoever our character is. At least, so we think. Who was it who saved the day? Well, it was none other than Mr. Stewart. He first questioned Martin in the tape Rebirth in Season 1, and he likely is the same officer who questioned Frank Norway, the arcade owner. He tells the child that they are alright and to come with him. He will take them somewhere safe. Where in the world were this child's parents? Something I'd like to point out is that right after the Fuzzy Buddy gets blasted by Officer Stewart, the TV screen quickly shows text asking, "Where's my dog?" We then cut back to the person who is recording their interaction with the Fuzzy Buddy, running away after it attacked. However, they don't make it very far before they bump into our familiar creatures from the commercial. Looks like they are real creations. We look up, and sure enough, the one that looks a bit too similar to our toy maker is lurking above us. The commercial then comes back to finish off, letting us know that the Fuzzy Buddy can be found in all Harmony toy stores, and that if we buy one, we get another for free. Now who would want 2 of these murder toys in the house? And better yet, the first 10 to leave the shelves come with a little sing-along tape. That totally doesn't activate something within the toy to do what we just saw a few moments ago. We are then taken to our last segment of the entry, and it is certainly out there to say the least. We find ourselves in this limbo-like setting, where the Ava doll lays before sitting up, and behind her we see the old Stitch Buddy, and he isn't looking too good. Ava begins to crawl towards the little guy, before managing to get up and run. They unfortunately don't make it very far before they fall, and we see the crack that gets formed on the forehead. This causes the Stitch Buddy to begin crawling towards her, almost as if one doesn't want the other to struggle too hard. They both begin to crawl towards one another. However, Bonzo seems to exert all the strength they have left. Bonzo then begins to repeat the message they said to Ava in the aforementioned Rebirth tape from Season 1, before we are given the option to kill or don't kill.
I don't know you that well, but I know you feed me treats. You loved me, Ava.
Ava is finally able to make it towards Bonzo, and the screen fades to black, and we are presented with yet another choice: free or rebirth. Oh boy, let's go for the more hopeful option first. Free. The first thing we are met with is our two characters laying lifeless by each other. Bonzo calls out to Ava, and she responds with puppy. Bonzo again apologizes to her and tells her not to cry, that he knows it hurts. Ava calls out to her mother, and Bonzo tells her that it's okay to let go, that he will take her to her mother. And we then see these two little lights leave their bodies and head up into the air. Hopefully this means that in this realm, the two souls were finally able to be free, and Ava and Bonzo are now able to go back to Gloria and no longer be trapped souls forever in a state of being tortured endlessly. Which makes me all the more fearful as to what in the hell happens when we make the other choice. Rebirth. We open up and cut to various shots around this house, before we hear a call from the police from the front door, demanding they be let in. Is it possible they are after Martin? They end up kicking the door down, and one of the officers makes the interesting decision to split up, with him staying downstairs and the other heading up. Except our other officer doesn't seem to be too happy with the plan, but reluctantly agrees. We begin to head upstairs, but we very quickly are met with something running past the screen and right up those stairs. We try to call back to who we now know is Officer Jameson, except no one responds. We cut to Jameson for a brief moment as he checks one of the bathrooms, and sure enough, the window has been opened. Whoever we are after has managed to escape. Back upstairs, our officer confirms that we are after the man himself, Martin Greywinder. Things around the house start to begin appearing very strange. If only these guys knew the full extent. Right when Officer Jameson starts to believe Martin isn't in the house, the radio turns on out of nowhere, and in one of the house shots, it's clear that something else is in the house with them. Our more frightened officer upstairs ends up also hearing some music coming from a different room down the hall, and Officer Jameson ends up opening a door that leads down to the basement. As our officer upstairs finds himself in this room with a very ominous looking piece of furniture, Jameson finds himself face to face with a red door. Behind the red door appears to be a jack-in-the-box. We don't need to mess with that. And upstairs, our officer is frightened by an alarm clock that lands in front of him and goes off. And when he looks back up, let's just say what was a piece of furniture is now, well, I'll let you see this one for yourself.
No, Jameson!
Officer Jameson runs to try and help out who we now know is, well, was, named Jeremy. But the new life-size toy has quickly made its way to him. Officer Jameson believes that telling this thing to freeze and put its hand in the air will do anything. But that's when we learn the most horrific thing yet. This is a fusion of both Ava and Bonzo. The head has the same crack, and after doing a full owl head turn, reveals Bonzo on the other side. I don't know how many human-dog hybrids I'm going to be able to handle in one lifetime, but sure enough, it doesn't seem like Officer Jameson is making it out of this one. So it's either we get the happy-ish ending where the souls are set free, or we enter a horrifying reality where the two have fused into a more terrifying creation. Was this at the hands of Martin, or was it something Ava and Bonzo accidentally did to themselves? If I had to guess, this would have to take place near the same time as when Bonzo was ordered to kill Ava in her crib. Perhaps that dreamlike limbo sequence was only how they were experiencing that moment. Or the option not to kill Ava was actually what had happened, and this was the punishment inflicted upon them by Martin after refusing his orders. Something else to mention is the fact that the toy company is no longer called M&A Harmony Toys. The M&A have been removed, leaving us with just Harmony Toys. This could explain why instead of Stitch Buddy, it's Fuzzy Buddy. We've entered into a new era of the toy company, and I am not all that excited to see what else comes from this rebranding. The Miracle Child. We are taken inside a bedroom, and a woman's voice can be heard entering the room, telling us that her friend Charlotte found a puppy in her crawl space, and she asks if we would be interested in adopting it. Turns out we are listening in on a conversation between Gloria and Martin. We have been taken pretty early in the timeline, and I'm guessing the puppy that was found will inevitably be Bonzo. Probably would have been safer living in the crawl space, honestly. However, Martin clearly is in a lot of distress. Gloria asks if he is alright, and he tells us that he made the trip to the doctors, and the news he received is not one he wanted to hear.
Well, how did it go? Did he say yes?
No. He said no.
Gloria goes on about how they can still adopt, but Martin doesn't like the idea of taking care of someone else's kid. I see what's going on here. Sounds like Martin has been told that he won't be able to have any kids, and if it isn't his blood, he doesn't want it. This upsets Gloria a bit. She wants him to consider all other options, which angers Martin a little bit, and Gloria doesn't take too kindly to it.
And my one chance of having a child of my own flesh and blood was thrown down the drain!
Don't ever raise your voice at me.
Martin ends up walking off and heads into the basement to continue working, and the scene ends as Gloria begins to cry. Well, Martin, you do end up with 3 kids, so how did that happen? He did have suspicions that an affair was going on between her and his brother Arthur, and now, hearing this news, it wouldn't necessarily shock me to learn that none of Martin's kids are actually his. We then head over to our next segment, and are introduced to a kid named Eddie Miller, and are shown his letter to Santa. He writes that this year for Christmas, I want the new Henry doll. I asked for a Stitch Buddy last year, but it doesn't work. I think your elves broke it. Idiots. Not only has the Stitch Buddy gotten an improvement, but now you're telling me there are new Henry dolls as well? Be careful what you wish for, kid. The next thing we see is the fact that Eddie has a plan to capture Santa on camera. He plans to stay up all night to get the best chance. And sure enough, it definitely sounds like someone shows up on the ceiling. He quickly writes down that he's here. I heard him on the roof. I can't believe it. His parents aren't home, and he plans to show off the photo once they return. For your sake, I hope it's the real Santa. We head downstairs with the camera, and when I tell you, this thing ain't Santa, and I just about collapsed after this nightmare. We quickly run into our bedroom and hide in the closet, but this horrific abomination isn't the only thing Eddie has to be worried about. We then see a new note. That's not Santa. If anything, that looks exactly like the monster we had seen in Season 1 in the tape Through Broken Windows when he jump scares us at the beginning. Something to note is that this thing always seems to be around Henry dolls. In the aforementioned tape, he had 2 by its sides, and now the one that had jumped out at Eddie. Our next segment we then cut to is labeled Arthur's Speech, and we see as someone is standing at a podium with a censored face, and the man introduces himself as Arthur Greywinder, and he says that in order to keep spirits high, he isn't going to mention his brother's name, and according to him, he was pronounced dead 7 years ago. We end up taking a look at a newspaper article that reads, "The founder of Harmony Play Incorporation, Arthur Greywinder, found alive after 7 years. Arthur sustained terrible injuries on his face that resulted in scars that appeared as if his face was melting. He was restored to full health after a week. Arthur is to be making a public announcement on March 1st. This event leaves many citizens with questions about his journey, and if he has any information on the 1985 Martin the Maniac case. It's also leaving me with a lot of questions, because if Arthur was turned into the Ice Cream Man, there is no way in hell he is A, alive, or B, able to look the way he does. Something fishy is definitely going on here." Quote-unquote Arthur goes on to say that while he wishes he could change things back to the way they were before the horrific incidents, he can't bring himself to do it, and he reveals that his face is now covered in plastic so he could appear like the rest of us. He continues on with his heartfelt speech, and then goes on to introduce us to the next steps in his business venture, Harmony Arcadia, the home of happiness. I gotta admit, this place does look pretty sweet. It comes with an arcade, toy store, and play area. This place seems to have it all, honestly, as it provides a temporary home for shelterless pets, a daycare center. However, once we get into the security, yeah, I don't want to go here anymore. It looks like they are going to use these animatronic security systems based on the Henry toys. This can only lead to good things. Then, oddly enough, Arthur reveals that he wasn't the only one to make it back home, as the 8 missing individuals that were attacked by Martin have managed to make it back home. And when talking about them, Arthur should have used some better word choice for sure.
You have no idea how hungry it makes me to see these beautiful people back in the arms of their brave families.
You also can't tell me that they've made it back home alive, when the text at the bottom says that their remains were found at the Greywinder residence. Well, almost all of them were found, as the last image for Martha Clementine says that her remains were never found, to which we end off this segment in quite the horrific manner. Our next bit appears to take us to a broadcast from M&A Harmony Toys, the original company, and who other than the eyeless haunting Henry doll to introduce us. Thankfully, he explains himself, and says that his eyes are missing just because he and Stitch Buddy were playing tag and he tripped over a rock, which happens to the best of us. Turns out it isn't just his eyes. He completely fell apart, and it's up to us to piece him back together. After learning we will put him back together, he thanks us by giving us this imagery that definitely won't haunt me in my sleep.
You will? Well, aren't you just the sweetest thing? Sweeter than a strawberry ice cream.
After that's all over, we start with his arms. We locate them and assist in putting them back in place.
I guess you can say you gave me a hand.
Then it's on to the legs. And just like with the arms, all we gotta do is snap them in place. After the first leg is put in, our scene begins to look a little bit darker, before again, it glitches out entirely. Now it's time to find his eyes. And don't think I don't see you, Jester Martin, lurking in the back there. It also then sounds like Henry knows that Martin is near as well, as he tells us that he is hiding, and then tells us to hide. We eventually find his eyes, and this next segment showing us putting his eyes back in definitely takes a much more graphic turn. I hate to say it, but I think we just watched Martin's process of making his toys. We are then brought inside a bedroom, and Martin is standing by the doorway, and it appears we are in the eyes of his son Thomas, as Martin tells him that it's time for his surprise. No thanks, I'm good. We frequently flash the Henry doll on screen, then it becomes 2, and then our familiar pink monster, then an image of the skinless body looking like they have exited the Henry doll. Could that be what the pink monster is, and not the ice cream man? At this point, do I even want to know? Another newspaper clipping then flashes on screen. We read that on the morning of November 11th, 1985, the bodies of 2 young boys, Richard Smith and Nathan Barnes, were dug up from the Marna Bell Cemetery. Detective Harold Stewart is conducting an investigation for the whereabouts of the 2 bodies. The 2 boys both died due to viewing a hacked broadcast, a kids program titled The Adventures of Marcus and Andrew. We saw in the tape Are You Happy that Richard Smith had suffered a seizure and Nathan Barnes had his head fully twisted after watching said broadcast. It sounds like one of Martin's methods was to put his cursed chant into the broadcast, to which anyone who watched it would die, and then he'd go to the cemetery and steal the corpses so that he could use them to make more of his creations. But back in the bedroom, it turns out Arthur the Ice Cream Man was in the closet the whole time, and as Martin does, he makes others do his dirty work, and we watch as poor Thomas gets attacked by the Ice Cream Man. The last thing we see in this segment is quite the brutal look at where Thomas was attacked on his bed. If we recall in the tape I Want a Toy, the Henry doll talks about how he repeatedly asked his dad for a toy, to which Martin tells him to go to his room, and that he will surprise him at night. We then cut to what looks to be one of the Harmony locations completely destroyed, while in the background we hear another conversation between Gloria and Martin from the past. Gloria reveals that she hadn't been feeling well and went to go see a doctor. Martin is concerned, but Gloria then shows him an image of an ultrasound. Gloria is pregnant. Martin is rightfully confused given what the doctor had told him, but he is too ecstatic at the idea of being a dad to really think much about it. Gloria says that the doctor said that his chances were little to none, but that doesn't mean impossible, to which Martin claims that this has to be a miracle, making Thomas the miracle child.
Say that again?
Quite tragic to hear these two so happy about something given that we know how this all ends. We then return to Eddie, and in a shocking turn of events, it seems like he wasn't attacked and killed by the pink creature and the Henry doll. We see another note that reads, I made a new friend today. He's really big and pink. He's a little scary, but also really shy. Maybe I finally have an imaginary friend. He also has a new Henry toy with him. I'm going to take a picture of him to show mommy and daddy when they get back. So, where are this kid's parents again? We then cut to Eddie's POV and see the monster standing right in front of him. He grabs his camera to grab a picture, but it definitely seems like this thing does not like his picture being taken. We read another note. Don't take pictures of Mr. Handy. He does not like to take pictures. He started crying when I used the camera. I told him I was sorry and he gave me a hug. He's so nice. This certainly is not what I expected from such a frightening creature. His design may be horrifying, but so far he hasn't harmed Eddie in any way. And based on the way Eddie describes these moments, it truly seems like this thing is only here for a friend. Poor scary guy. We then see another note that reads that the Henry toy came up to me and asked if she could tell me a story. I told her how much I love stories. The story that was told is then presented to us in note format, and I wonder how much Eddie is truly going to understand what it is he's reading. These eyes are not mine. That cursed, maleficent lullaby has twisted my mind. burning with passion under the toymaker's wing, joy to the children I thought I'd bring. Placed backstage filled with dread and despair, he told me to wait, this isn't fair. I kept my composure and tried not to cry, then I heard that damn lullaby. Like a scorching voice, it burned my ears. It paralyzed my body and shook me to tears. It was then I felt I wasn't alone. Something had made my body its home. I screamed as my skin started to melt. There was no use begging for help. I fought for my life and began to crawl. Something was watching me. It was slender and tall. With black and white stripes covering its skin, it's smiling at me with a blood-red grin. This is the end. I'm going to die. All because of that damn lullaby. Like a devil's whisper gutting my soul, sickening thoughts started to unfold. Don't be sad, it's better this way. Take my hand, it'll be okay. Just close your eyes and say goodbye. Listen to my lullaby. I started to believe everything would be fine. That was until he ripped out my... and then the note ends there. If I had to guess, considering that phrase sounds awfully familiar, that this Henry doll may in fact contain Amy Wilson. If we recall in the tape Are You Happy, Amy Wilson is shown, and it said she stopped screaming once her spine came out, and the word spine would theoretically end off the rhyme. A crying can then be heard in the background. Is this the cries from the story? Or perhaps Eddie was crying due to what he had read? We were then met with this image of something I don't think we have seen before. It doesn't look like Martin's classic jester outfit. Perhaps it's another one of his toys meant to do his bidding. We did hear about the possibility of multiple clowns earlier in this video. The next thing we see is essentially the same scenes that were in the Season 1 tape with the jumbled up text, to which, thanks to this comment, we know translates to "they are inside the building." We see as whoever was working the night shift is visited by the Henry doll, and then the pink monster jumps out at them, causing them to run off and hide. And we again get to see the Henry doll get blasted by the gun the guard was wielding. But that really pisses off the pink monster, and based on what we see next, I don't think gunshots are going to work on this guy. We are then brought to what looks to be an ad for the new Henry security puppet being used to guard Harmony Arcadia, and we learn that they decided to make these things bulletproof. Perhaps after so many of them had been taken out by bullets, they decided they needed to solve that issue. Not only that, but they have extendable arms that can stretch up to 50 feet away. Their eyes have optical cameras, and the internal criminal database means they know who they can let in and who they can, strangle to death. We learn that there are 3 categories of these Henry puppets. The first is Playtime Henry, who is there to ensure that all the children follow the rules. What happens when a child decides to break one of the rules? The next is Trooper Henry, there to make sure that the adults don't break any rules. Which, some of these rules seem a little odd if you ask me. No bad language, no photography, and no video cameras? Maybe it's just my brain existing in the age of technology, and this is the 90s, but wouldn't that be everywhere? I guess these people are really on their toes after the Martin incident. The last category is Commander Henry, who runs all the other security puppets. It's said that he also decides the punishment a rule breaker will receive, aka, you really don't want to have to see this guy. The narrator then finished off the commercial essentially telling the parents to let their guard down when it comes to their children because these puppets will do all the work. Yeah, this whole operation isn't suspicious at all. But now we are brought to the next segment, back to Gloria and Martin. Martin can be heard humming creepily, and Gloria rushes into the room telling him that the school had called and said Thomas hadn't shown up, even though Martin said he would take him. It sounds like we are unfortunately brought to the following day after Thomas had been killed. Martin doesn't appear to be listening to anything Gloria is saying. He begins to talk about how the Harmony broadcast incident sent Arthur over the edge, which led to Martin being demoted to mascot performer. Given the fact so many children died after watching said broadcast, I'm surprised that is the only thing to happen to him. Gloria doesn't really care about that right now and is more concerned about where Thomas is, to which Martin begins to laugh maniacally, and he goes on to reveal that he knows something that Gloria has been lying about. Uh-oh.
Where is he? Where is our son?
Our son?
Gloria then says that she had already called Arthur to come and take her and the kids away from him, given his recent behavior. You know, abusing the kids and acting like an overall freak. It's likely that at this point, Martin has already taken Arthur, as he proceeds to lie to Gloria that he is already left without them. Gloria doesn't believe anything he is saying, but Martin's next move is downright horrifying to hear.
You have 30 seconds to get the girls and get as far as you can.
We hear Gloria run out the bedroom door, and Martin continues counting, and the credits of this entry begin to play. During the credits, we hear Martin exit the door as well, and we unfortunately get to hear Gloria's end. Harmony and Horror never fails to be one of the more disturbing and haunting horror series out there, and Season 2 has given us both a glimpse into what is happening the latest in the timeline, and fills in some of the gaps in some instances from the tapes in Season 1. It's now been confirmed that there was indeed an affair going on between Gloria and Arthur, meaning Thomas, Macy, and Ava are all Arthur's children, not Martin's, given he literally was incapable of it. It was speculated in the last video on Harmony and Horror Season 1 that Martin's toys before his deal with the devil were not selling very well, likely because they just weren't good. Hence the reason he decided to make the deal and do some demonic rituals to try and create the most lifelike and perfect toys out there. This likely gave him the ability to morph human bodies into the toys themselves. It's possible a part of the deal was that he had to offer up some souls. Martin definitely had his suspicions for a while that there was something going on between Arthur and Gloria, and since he knows the children are not of his own flesh and blood, he abused them and began to turn into an overall maniac. Gloria calls Arthur to formulate a plan to have him take her and the kids away from him. Martin and Arthur then have a confrontation where Arthur scolds him about what he had done to Bonzo, and reveals to him about the phone call he had with Gloria, to which Martin, like he did with Gloria, lies to Martin that he had already taken care of that problem, leading Arthur to believe he had already killed them. Martin then shoots Arthur and turns him into the ice cream mascot, goes home with him, and sends in the little surprise to Thomas's room to morph him with the Henry puppet. Knowing that Thomas was actually Arthur's kid makes the whole ordeal all the more tragic. Arthur was forced to attack his own son, which would honestly explain why the pink monster seems so attached to the Henry dolls. That is, if the pink monster is Arthur, after shedding the skin of the ice cream suit. Gloria comes home the next day and confronts Martin about Thomas's whereabouts, and he reveals his knowledge of the affair, and tells her that Arthur has abandoned them. He gives her the 30-second head start, and in the Season 1 tape, She Can't Sleep, we can hear Gloria enter Macy's room to try and get her out of the house. Unfortunately, it sounds like Bonzo was there to stop them due to the growl we heard, and Gloria attempts to hide Macy away, but we then hear again Martin kill her with the gunshot, and it's heavily implied Martin was able to find Macy and then killed her as well, leaving only Ava left, to which Martin sends in Bonzo to kill her, as seen in the tape Rebirth. Something that still has me confused is the fact that now in 1993, Arthur was somehow found alive. Yeah, I'm not buying it. For one, why would Arthur, after all he had been through, decide to continue operating the Harmony business, using the same ice cream mascot he was stuffed in? I wouldn't be surprised if Martin just went through some facial reconstruction surgery or made the fake plastic face to just impersonate Martin, and now is using all the high tech in Harmony Arcadia to get his hands on more souls to make more evil toys. Updated ones, like the new Fuzzy Buddy, continuing on his reign of terror. Needless to say, this series continues to be a hell of a horrifying ride to embark on, taking us through the story of a man hell-bent on having control and doing whatever he can to achieve it. It has been quite a bit of time since anything Season 2 related has come out, but there has been some remastered tapes from Season 1 that have released. So who knows, maybe once that is all finished, we will get the continuation of the story. We gotta see if Mr. Stewart succeeds in his quest for bringing Martin to justice. Perhaps he and Frank Norway will work together to try and solve the case for good. But even so, the 2 tapes we saw in Season 2 were full of incredible animation and storytelling that once we get new episodes, you're damn sure I'm gonna have to check them out. However, that'll probably be about it for this video. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the original series as it's full of excellent world building and it definitely succeeds at being terrifying and unnerving, not only with its visual scares, but its story as well. As always, be sure to keep leaving me recommendations down below, whether it be in the YouTube comments or the community Discord, where demonic rituals definitely aren't happening. But if you'll excuse me, I just need to check out the new place that opened up down the road, Harmony Arcadia.